What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all so you can get notified of all latest content as and when we drop it on the channel. So let's get into this one. Recently, ever since the weekend, Tony Bellew has been in a lot of kind of social media headlines. He had an interview which I watched yesterday on TalkSport. It was with Simon Jordan and a few of the other individuals, a few of the other regulars that are on there. And in this interview, he the thing that stuck out to pretty much everybody that watched it was his comments on Artur Beterbiev. Now, if you know anything about Tony Bellew, he's friends with the Smith family, where you have four very good brothers who boxed. Callum Smith just lost to Artur Beterbiev on the weekend. You got Liam Smith, Stephen Smith, and Paul Smith. So four brothers. They all done quite well for themselves in boxing. They're fellow Scousers, obviously. Tony Bellew's also a Scouser from up north, up in Liverpool. So yeah, those guys are his friends, and there's kind of a ongoing joke with Tony Bellew that whenever he sort of commentates on fights, he tends to go for the home fighter, go for the fighter he knows, and he tends to. I think he even got in trouble for sort of overdoing it with his support for Derek Chisora when I think he was boxing behind closed doors or something, and whereas as a pundit you're supposed to have a sort of a neutrality to a certain extent when you do punditry work, so you give a kind of balanced perspective, and he tends to always go towards people he knows and stuff. And the controversy with his comments was about him kind of speaking on Artur Beterbiev. Now, Beterbiev, as we all know, he basically demolished. He made easy work of Callum Smith. No damage to his face. He didn't really have to box at a pace he wasn't comfortable at. He was fully in control of Callum Smith, who is the bigger figure, the bigger fighter at light heavyweight. But yeah, Beterbiev just dominated him prior to the fight. Bellew was among those that were picking Callum Smith to win. But to me, going by his kind of track record, he does tend to go with his friends and people he knows. When he picks, when it comes to fights, and he's picking a winner, he does just tend to go towards the people he knows and the people he likes and whatnot, and that's how he picks. He doesn't really pick with objectively. So to me, that's no surprise. But as we know, with Artur Beterbiev, he returned an atypical finding in one of his drugs tests that he took, and then after him taking that test, there was a further, I think it's at least a further two or three more tests, which came back quite normal. And what his test was coming back atypical for was high levels of testosterone. So sort of for his age, he had a particularly high level of testosterone, which is not illegal. Vada pointed out, even when sort of revealing those results, that it's not illegal. The what he has in his body, there's no, it's not the same as if a strange substance is found and then you fail the test. So he didn't. The bottom line is it's an atypical finding. High level of testosterone, but there's no illegal substance in his body, and he still passed that test and every subsequent test and every test prior to that. He's a guy that's been clean throughout his boxing career. I don't think there's ever been any failed drugs tests at all. So yeah, that's the story of it. But Bellew sort of started talking about this atypical thing and saying that Beterbiev just seems to be defying age. He's 39, but he doesn't look old. He hasn't really slowed down. He's still knocking everybody out. He talked about the fact that when Callum Smith hit Beterbiev with his best shots, that they really had no effect. He said that he's speaking in. He said that he sparred Callum Smith, and Callum Smith can punch hard. So how comes he felt Callum Smith's punches, but Beterbiev didn't, etc., etc. And he was bringing up all this stuff, really, just saying that Beterbiev is kind of defying age and whatnot, and how could he possibly walk through Callum Smith's punches and still keep going, and how can a big puncher like Callum Smith, and he even had the audacity to say that he said that basically someone, I think Simon Jordan said, but he took Joe Smith Jr.'s punches, no problem. And Joe Smith Jr. is a big punch. But then Tony Bellews said, yeah, but is Joe Smith Jr. as big a puncher as Callum Smith? And I was thinking to myself, hold on a minute. What's this guy smoking? I mean, Joe Smith I think Joe Smith is a career light heavyweight, and Joe Smith is a massive puncher at light heavyweight. I mean, Callum Smith has knocked over a few guys at light heavyweight, but let's not kid ourselves into thinking that the guys he's knocked out or knocked down have been of any, to any level, like a high caliber of opponents. And whereas Joe Smith Jr., he's definitely put a dent in big guys at light heavyweight. So if I'm gonna compare punch power, I'm gonna definitely give Joe Smith Jr. the edge, because he's been doing it at light heavyweight, and he's been putting guys down at light heavyweight. He's the proven quantity at that weight as far as punching power goes. So I did find that a bit strange from Bellew, but again, it's probably just his kind of bias that he has towards his people, towards people he likes and he knows. And the one good thing I would say about this interview is that Tony Bellew was very honest. He was very upfront, and he did admit at the outset that a lot of the time his judgment is skewed by emotion. So he did admit that when it comes to picking a winner, he said that he allows his emotions to sort of dictate who he's going to pick. So that automatically sort of skews any opinion that he has. That kind of calls it into question. And he wasn't outright calling Beterbiev a drugs cheat, but he was kind of alluding to it by saying that how is it that this guy at 39 is still able to take punishment and dish out punishment? He doesn't feel punches coming back. He's knocked out everyone. Callum Smith's such a big guy. How did Callum Smith hit him and he didn't move? And to me personally, I think his opinion is a bit lacking in a sense. I certainly don't agree with it, because in my opinion, the bottom line is every one of these boxers, they go through protocols, they go through drugs testing, and is pretty much across the board the same. Everyone has to go through it. So Callum Smith would have gone through Vada. He would have got Beterbiev's gone through Vada. And in my view, you got to really treat these guys as innocent until proven guilty, because if you just say, well, he can walk through shots, he can do this, he can do that at an older age, at the end of the day, with Beterbiev, this is nothing new. I would understand someone having Bellew's perspective if perhaps this was a one-off where Beterbiev wasn't a puncher and then he suddenly became a puncher overnight. He wasn't knocking anyone out. Then he knocked over Callum Smith or something like that. But no, this is a guy with 100% knockout ratio. He knocks out every single guy that he fights. His performances have been very consistent throughout his career, which have been, just knockouts. He's just too big, not too big, but just too strong, too big of a puncher, too powerful. And technique is very, very skilled as well. So there's been consistency throughout Beterbiev's career. And therefore, for me to suspect him of being a drug cheat is a bit of a cop out, really, because there's no, it's not like there's been sort of a change in pattern of what he's been able to do in the ring. He's been pretty much doing the same thing and getting the results all the way through his career. So, and he's never failed a drugs test. That's another thing that people have to consider. That okay, you may think, oh, he's defying science and he can't be this age and blah blah blah. But unless the guy's actually failed a drugs test, then I don't think it's fair to sort of judge him and start saying that, oh, he might be on this or might be on that, because at the end of the day, there's no evidence for him having been on anything. So therefore, for me, I think to kind of judge him and look at him in that way when there's no evidence to suggest that this is the case, I think it's unfair, and I have to say that I disagree with that sort of opinion. So anyway, let me know what you think about this subject. Tony Bellews comments on Artur Beterbievs. Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out. Catch you in the next one.